So once you've cut the logs together and you've gotten rid of most of the gaps, then you want to mark them before you take the first log off. The first log on the left is your bottom log. So I'm on my sixth wall here, so I'll mark these F1 and F2. You just mark one end of the logs, so then you know which logs go where and they fit at the one end only. So as the wall goes up, you swap it back and forth, big end to small end, big end to small end, and that way as the wall goes up, it stays nice and level. When you get to doing your two end walls, you can put all the big ends at one end and that'll create the slope. And once you get the slope that you're after, go back to big, small ends. This way you get nice, even logs all the way up. As you're going up, you don't have so many issues to try and level it out, the walls, that is. Okay, now that we've marked those two logs, we can take the first log off. So once we take the first log off, then we can put up the next log. So this is the bottom log. It's going to go off onto the ground. Then we move the second log over and put the cut against the bracket. But with all these logs, even though we've debarked them, they're still a little bit hairy. So what we normally do is plane them, and it just makes them look really good if you do plane them. And once you plane them, you can actually get more linseed oil to soak into the log that way. Now we put up our third log. We start cutting it into place. Using the wedges definitely helps keep the logs from pinching your saw as you go along. After you've done 2, 3, maybe even 4 cuts, you'll close all the gaps between the two logs usually. If you do have slight gaps, that won't matter that much, as I mentioned, because we're not actually waterproofing it. Now we put F3 on this log, and that underneath side will be the side that goes against your uprights. Then we take off the second log. Then we put up another log, and you just keep going like that until you've constructed your entire wall. I normally go about 20 logs high, and that ends up somewhere around 7.5 to 8 feet, because as you go up, usually the logs will get a little bit smaller each time. You don't have all perfectly sized logs as usual, so you start sorting them out. And when you build a wall, you start out as big as you can at the bottom, but just go lighter and smaller as you go up to the top. Now here I'm planing off the hairy bark that was left behind after these logs have been debarked. And as I mentioned, once you plane the entire log off, you don't have to, but it certainly looks better when you do. And that allows the linseed oil to soak into the log a lot farther. just a standard planer set at a fairly low depth to start with, and then you can increase the depth if you need to, with depending on the logs. It's always a good idea to plane off the back side of the log because you don't want any sharp edges cutting your plastic or tearing your plastic. So you can get little nuggets sitting off the side of the logs. These are hardwood logs, so they do have little sharp points that you need to plane off to keep it from happening. And once again, to make your end walls, you go all big logs at one end, going down to the small logs. And once they get up to the height that you require, then you go back to big, small, big, small. Now to start with, we put down our bottom logs, and then we put our next log on, and I try to do several walls at a time so that they go up together. Now what we've done here is we placed a 2x4 untreated pine along the upright and nailed it in. Make sure your plastic goes under the wall, and then you nail this 2x4 into the upright. Now you have two uprights, one at each end of the log, so that it's easy to get the logs in behind the wall and behind the uprights. You place the two center uprights in later. Now, once you get them in, the idea of the 2x4 is to nail into the 2x4 and into the log to hold the log into place. Even though they stack up nicely and they sit nicely, you want to still nail them into this 2x4 to hold them into place. You lift the 2x4 off of the ground a bit so that it's actually not going to be in your cement pour. This is a ramp constructed to slide the logs down, and that way it's easier to get the logs in. Put a couple of blocks at the end so they don't slide all the way across and hit your walls as it's going up. This works quite well. I made this little cart out of two trolleys bolted together. Now this shows you how to put the logs into place. Just go up and over and then slide it back and let it drop down on the other log nice and gently. You can see all of these with the 2x4s nailed into the side of them. Now we drill through the 2x4 and into the log, and then put a 3-inch galvanized threaded nail in to hold it into place. The threaded nails are very, very strong, and being galvanized, they won't rust out so quickly at later times. We used untreated pine, mainly because if you ever get white ants in here, they'll go for the untreated pine first. That shows you how we slide the logs in. This is doing it all manually, of course. Later on, I've done situations where I had a small crane truck, so I bolted the walls together in 3-foot sections and lifted them in that way off the side. But you can do this by yourself, you and another person. And this, once again, you drill through at an angle and into the hardwood log, drive your nail in, and then that holds this log in place until you backfill and bury the entire situation. So as you go up, nail both ends, and that way it holds it into place. You certainly don't want a log falling in behind the wall while you're constructing it. These are just two 44-gallon drums with a couple of 2x6s on top of them so that we can get up high enough to place the logs into place as the walls go up higher. Now the air pipe's coming in through the plastic. Uh, I've got 3 layers of 200 plastic. So you push the air, these are 6-inch plastic air pipes. And we also have 12-inch plastic air pipes. These are the 12-inch ones, actually. Sorry. And you push them up neat against the plastic. As you can see here, the pipes are just behind the plastic. And what you want to do is cut inside the hole very gently, and don't make a big hole, because what you want to do is just cut it out small enough to where you can force the plastic around it, stretch it around as I'm doing here, get it stretched around for a really tight fit on the air pipe. This takes a bit of doing, but the tighter the better. So once you get it over the pipe itself, it's very tight fit. Then you can silicone it or tape it, or do both if you like. And you have a nice fit around the air pipes. So you carve out both holes slowly to make sure you can get a really tight fit around these air pipes. The air pipes are very important, so you want to get these right. So I push around one side and then trim it a bit, and then very forcibly get it to go over the